Military coup, according to research, used to be a regular occurrence in some parts of Africa decades after independence, just when there is a relative peace. So would I say relative democratic stability? And, there have been indications that coup is in the rise again in Africa with the takeover in Gabon, which was actually is the most recent. And the reason for this topic is because of this rising coup. Hello and welcome to Let's Talk. My name is Oluja Kemosaku. With the topic, the rising coup in Africa. My guest is Mr. Adesina Adedapo, MNI. He is the immediate past president of Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, among many other feathers to his crown. So please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on all of our social media platforms. Your support is what we need. Thank you once again for always watching Let's Talk. Thank you, sir, for coming on the show. It's nice having you. Thank you. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It's also a pleasure to be here.
Yes, sir. So, rising coup in Africa. When is a coup a coup?
A coup is a coup when there are people who decide to actually either terminate a presidency or an elected office. And this is normally done through the use of force or the threat of the use of force. So you can see the fact that first and foremost, it comes against the wish of the people, which ordinarily would have been exercised through democratic norms. And then secondly, this coup is normally validated and given the element of correctness, because the people will now say, oh, things are already going wrong. These are people who are looking like our savior. That is when you see a coup that actually end up becoming successful. That is that illegal termination is now being validated because the people support it.
Now, study shows that there has been over 200 of such attempts in Africa since the 1950s, and about a half of such attempts were successful. What would you say is or was the problem in Africa?
The fact of the matter remains that the people who are the coupists always also sensitize what is happening within the community. They will see the displeasure, the disharmony within the system, and they lash on this in order to perpetrate the coup. And like you rightly said earlier, we have had over more than close to about 248. And when you look at this coup, the justification has something to do with what is normally called the indicators of bad governance. If I have to put it that way, maybe misgovernance. And you see issues of corruption, issues of not carrying the people along, because you see, democracy is actually the government of the people, by the people, for the people. So when it is now clear that the government of the people, by the people, for the people has been terminated one way or the other, either through the corruption model or through even the issue of electoral malpractice, then the coup is now looking justified. And these are all issues when you now see the fact that it becomes more successful. We have more than 50%, like you said earlier, being successful. And you cannot perpetrate a coup if you don't have the power of force. And that is where you see that the coup is always perpetrated by the military arm of governors, because that threat of force is there, and then the coup becomes successful. Not necessarily the wish of the people at that point in time, but the people may rationalize it and say, well, good riddance to bad rubbish.
That's really, really something that we need to look into, that the military. We also have other aspects of what I call the military, which is the Navy, the Air Force, and all of that, the Marine. But
I agree.
We get to hear such from them. So why is it always the Army?
Okay, let me put it this way. In most cases, you find out that the Army is on the land, is the land force. And they are the ones that are very close. They are the ones that guide the movement of the presidency in and out of the community within the system. So it is easier for the army to have a first contact with the president or whoever is the person in charge of governance. So the starting point is, if you look at the Gabon case, you will see that the man is put under house arrest immediately. If you look at the Niger, you will always see that they are the first set of people that have contact. And because most of the military in some other areas, we have the chief of defense staff that coordinate these three military ends. So when the military aspect has been really taken care of by the land force, the other two forces, especially when they're in the know, or when they do not have anything against that takeover, we just fall in line.
And it's so funny that the person that they've sworn in as their leader served with the president's father for many years. And, so he's been in the system. He knows so much about it.
Yeah. Now, you see, naturally, even within a family setup, you may not necessarily agree with every decision being taken. That's one. Then secondly, the issue of emotion comes in when you look at this. You have the greed factor. You have the aspect that based on the fact that, you want to look like the person who is different, even if you are collectively taking the decision together. But you see, at that point, when you realize that the displeasure outside is more than the harmony you can create inside, then you have to look for a way out. Do you actually eliminate? Is now a question of one for the benefit of the others. And then you have to talk about eliminating that one in order for you to get the goodwill of the majority of the people. And that is why, irrespective of how long you have been having this issue of cooperation among some set of people, you will still realize that somebody one day will realize this is not in the best interest of the people. We have to do something. Whether it is a bloodless coup or a bloody one, somebody must do something.
Okay. So in 2020, it was just one coup, and that was in Mali. 2021, it happened that we have 5 countries. It happened in 5 countries, I beg your pardon. And 2022, there were also 5 attempts, which only 2 were successful. And now in 2023, what are the factors responsible for the rising coup, which seem to be dominant in Africa, because we don't really hear this in the Western world.
I agree with you. And one of the things that we need to first understand is the fact that in the African context, there is always a historical background to the way we evolve. And in the African context, personality seems to be the dominant factor. We have the Kabiyesi model, we have the royalty model, is about His Imperial Majesty, His Royal Highness, where you say that the king can do anything, including even taking somebody's wife if he feels that way. So you see, this aspect of this kingship model eventually evolved. And then we now have a situation where the democratic norm started coming in. And we are saying, look, this is not a question of institutional control. It's no longer about personality. But unfortunately, personality still rules in our way of doing things. That is why you see the word psychophancy featuring regularly in our relationship. Now, when you now look at all this, and you are now realizing that people now get governance, and they no longer see themselves as subjected to the people. They see themselves as king over the people. They have no respect for the people's wish, the people's will, and they do things with impunity. Sooner or later, this gets to a heading point, and the people who have what it takes, not everybody have access to arms and ammunition. The people who have what it takes, who are equally displeased, may now start talking about taking action against the sitting government. So corruption is there. You see the aspect of poverty, and right within that poverty, you are seeing some people displaying a reckless prosperity. If I have to put that prosperity inverted comma open and close. But you see, these are all things that the people are able to see. And then they ask themselves, how can this thing belong to all of us collectively? And some set of people have decided to commandeer it and use it for their own selfish thing. You see, the poverty aspect is a serious issue, because poverty itself is an attack on the mind. And when the mind is distorted, you can realize anything can happen.
And that's why, just like you said about this royalty mentality, which was also taken into politics. Because if you look at the trend, most of these countries that have been taken over by coup have had leaders in power for over 50 years or so. And I guess we're just tired of having the same person ruling over that.
Yes, you see, if you take the Gabon case, for example, you are talking about a 42 plus 14, and it's just one family. A father 42, you are talking about a son again, another 14 years. You are looking at a combination of 56 years in the life of a country that came into existence about 60-something years ago. Now, when you put this in context, it is not too different from using the Royal Majesty model again, where it seems as if it is that family that has now become the blue blood that becomes the king and the emperor in that case. Now, unfortunately, even while that is an anomaly on its own, the question is what has happened to the people? Less than 3 million or something around that figure. And their poverty level, it has not abated. So the question is, what's the essence of the natural resources we have? What's the essence of the fact that all our effort does not seem to even give us this type of thing to give us a living wage or a living life? So if you have to put this in context, then the people are going to sooner or later. You know, education over time makes people easy to lead, but very difficult to enslave. Sooner or later, they are going to react. And in the course, whether the reaction comes within the ruling class or outside of the ruling class, the reaction must come sooner or later. And that is what is happening within the African region. The people are getting more exposed, they are saying things, and they are not happy with their circumstances, which is a serious matter.
Sure. So for the purpose of documentation, which country would you say has had the most coup, and why do you think they were successful in most of it?
Yes, for purpose of documentation, it is Sudan. And ironically, the poverty level in that place equally reflects this. And why it is Burkina Faso that has had more of successful coup, you have had more coup in Sudan than in any other place. Now look at the gross domestic capital. Look at the even living wage. Sudan is ranked as one of the poorest countries in the world. So when you look at this, you see that the poverty aspect, poverty, like I said earlier, is an affliction of the mind. Let us be very clear on this, because you see, when we say somebody is poor, that is understandable. You can be poor related to your resources. Maybe you have a high level of ambition and your resources cannot match that. But then you are not yet afflicted with the poverty mentality. The poverty mentality is ravaging Africa. People's minds have been distorted. People are even selling even some of their children just because they want to feed the remaining people that are there. How do you address this? And when the poverty afflicts the mind is amenable to anything, including corruption, including this issue of what do we do about the government? And you see the government has been the problem because you assume leadership in order to take care of your people. And if I have to digress just a little, I was in a particular country during my study tour, and one of the one of the ministers in that place told me, he said, your leaders don't love your people. Because look at it from that angle. How can you say you are a leader of some set of people and you are seeing poverty ravaging your mind and eyes every day, and you still feel comfortable going inside your own comfortable room, and you are busy enjoying and using money to do whatever you want to do, and poverty is right there in your neighborhood? It is nothing but unfairness and callousness. And that is just what is happening. So if you look at any country where you have such coup featuring regularly, you will always see poverty right there at the center of it all. Sudan is the one for purpose of this documentation. And it has shown, even up to now, that it is still the poorest country. I mean, one of the poorest countries in the world.
Thank you so much for that. We will quickly go on this break and we will be right back. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, the program is Let's Talk on DNT Work. I've been speaking with Mr. Adesina Adedapo, MNI. He is a chartered accountant and corporate governance professional. And the topic has been the rising coup in Africa. Thank you once again for standing by, sir. It's nice having you.
Thank you.
Now, due to the recent coup in Gabon, should Nigeria be worried?
Let me put it this way. Every leader, even at domestic or even a family level, should be worried. Now, let me tell you why all of us as leaders need to be worried. You see, when you are leading a community of people, even the most micro aspect will be the family level. You are talking about a father, mother, and children. And at a point in time, you see that there is a situation where poverty is ravaging the family. What is the essence of you going out and enjoying yourself when your spouse is suffering, when your children are suffering? Sooner or later, what do you think is going to happen to that micro-nuclear family? So somebody will rise up. If it is the firstborn that is strong enough, he may decide to tell the father that, look, what you are doing is unfair to us. That is exactly what is happening. Now, why everybody should be worried is this. You see, this is like in the Nigerian situation we are talking about now. Our population is about 200 million. In 20-something years' time, we'll be talking about 400 million. At 200 million, how many of our people are having gainful employment? How many of our people are in that situation? So if you are talking about looking forward, then it's high time we start facing all these domestic challenges and addressing it. And I want to believe the current government in place, with the knowledge of even the private sector understanding, we know that if we do not address this, it's like sitting on a ticking bomb, and it is not in the best interest of the country. So we should start paying attention to the lifestyle and the clear understanding of the fact that people cannot reason straight when poverty is right there on the table. So this is very important. All of us should be worried.
So every one of us should be worried. There is a disclaimer, just of recent, about there was something going around the social media about coup in Nigeria and all of that, and the military had to come out to actually talk to his colleagues to not even think that way and all of it. Now, looking at coup, we know we've had it before in Nigeria. Would you say the outcome is always better, or there's always danger to it, the challenges of the coup?
I would say it is not in the best interest of us to witness coup as a country, as Nigeria, for example. Now, let me tell you the Nigerian model as we have it. Look at Nigeria as today. You have a lot of educated people. We are making waves anywhere we find ourselves. We are well enlightened. So what do we now need to do right? The military are supposed to be strengthened in order to protect us against external aggression. The internal policing should equally be strengthened because they need to also be sure that they nip crime in the bud. These are all areas that borders on institutional framework. And there is a need for us to think from that perspective, because anytime you have a military coming in, you have a situation where they have left their primary job of actually securing us against external aggressors, and they are trying to become administrators. It is not the best way to go. What we now need to do is we should talk to ourselves. The administrators and the political class should actually start addressing the need of the people. The people elected them to be in office because of trust, and we must start addressing that trust deficit. We must strengthen it. It is not in the interest of the country. If you look at our history, during the period where you talk about the Gowon days, they were looking forward to the democracy. Anytime you say a military intervention, everybody all over the world is yearning, when is the next democratic dispensation? Because the military was not voted for, and the military is not supposed to be the norm. Our exception should not be the rule. We should address the issue of democracy and make sure that the greatest good of the greatest number of people is positioned for us to be able to make progress. As civilized people, we shouldn't be ruled by military. We should be ruled by people we elected to serve us.
Okay, thank you so much for that clarification. Now, going back again to Gabon, and I know you made mention of why people rejoice, about stuff like that. And the funny thing is that after they take over in Gabon, civilians seem to be happy with it as they took to the street to celebrate. Why so? Why, aside the fact that, okay, they've been ruled for 50 something years by the same family, why do you think they celebrated further?
They will surely celebrate. Honestly, in fact, the celebration, if you ask me, even maybe they should even call it the party and do the Owambe type of dance. The truth is that you have been in governance as a family for 56 years. What has happened to our circumstances? And this is a country that is also rich in natural resources. How well has that been done? Look at their GDP per capita. They have the highest in terms of that. Something close to almost $14,000 or $15,000. And then the circumstances of this country is that 33% of them are living below $2 per day. What sort of this thing is that? It's like you have water everywhere and you don't have any to drink. It doesn't make sense. So when you now see the situation where these people who have ruled, not led us, they didn't lead, who have ruled over us for 56 years are now being asked to go. In fact, it now looks as if whoever is coming will be better than these people we already have. Because the fact means that for 56 years, my circumstances have not changed. Then what do you expect me to do? I will celebrate the day somebody said it's high time. It is called deliverance service. If you have to put it in layman's time, somebody just came and delivered them. Whether the person will be a better person or not, let us first be delivered from this shame of poverty-invested leadership.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Adesina Adedapo. It's been wonderful speaking with you on this particular topic. Do you have any any final word that you feel we should know and how to go about it to actually avoid any occurrence in any?
Thank you very much. I appreciate this. You're calling me, and I think it's a good thing. I appreciate you for that. I want us, even as a country, as a nation, as an individual, to start looking at the World Governance Indicator. We have only about 6 issues under World Governance Indicator: the voice and accountability, the political stability and absence of violence and terrorism, government effectiveness, the issue of regulatory quality, the rule of law, and control of corruption. If this indicator that has been in place since 1996 is what we measure ourselves by, we will be getting better at what we do. I'm not saying it's going to be a perfect thing. We are human beings, quite all right. But please, if you are at 1% today, try to move tomorrow to another this thing. This is what we should start doing. Democracy has come to stay. Whether it is something we learn and we are still learning, we should learn fast and be good at it. The fact of the matter remains that we even need more of democratic, effective leadership in Africa than in any other continent. Because the poverty level is so high, and the only thing that takes people out of poverty is the retraining and the transformation of their mind. We should start focusing on that. And I pray that our leaders will do the right thing in order for us to have what we really need to, we deserve as people who have followed them and believe in them. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
And to you out there, thank you too for being part of the show. We do not pray for coup in any part of Africa again, but for the countries that are experiencing it, we pray that things will actually change for the best and there will be a quick transition to a democratic leadership rule again. Until next time, when I come your way again with another topic, I say take care of yourself and enjoy the rest of the day. Bye for now.